lighten it up again here.
Okay.
Get those, critic questions out of the way.
It's a lot of tension here.
Yeah,
You cut
yeah.
it with a knife. Go ahead. I knew the Olympic, I knew that was coming. So.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So another question from polevaultpower.com. So it would be interesting to hear Rick's take on coaching Jen from beginner to world class so quickly and away from the traditional pole vault strongholds of the U.S. Is he coaching anyone else other than Jen?
Well, I don't really coach anyone other than Jen.
Mhm.
Since '06, that's all.
Yeah,
I
and previous before that you had the the high school national records
Yep.
record holders.
Yeah, we had 3-4 really good high school vaulters,
Mhm.
and a lot of people said, he's got some different technique up there, but would it ever work at the elite level? Could he ever jump with the American elite
Mhm.
or the world elite? And that's when I knew that I wanted to go on beyond the high school level and give my try for the world class level. We've been very blessed. It's worked out phenomenal. But I've not coached anyone other than Jen since '06, which I miss a little bit of having different athletes and coaching different athletes. Her acceleration, as you said, going from 0 to jumping 15 or jumping world class. There's a book out there, beginning to book, and I've never read it. I'm sure it's a great read.
Mhm.
But I would venture to say there are a few sports stories in any sport that could equal what Jen did. I mean, from 0 to 10 months, U.S. national champion. I've just never heard of it, and it's just incredible. It's incredible. It's just one of the great all-time sports stories. So, I can't say enough about it, but it is what it is. It's just an unbelievable story.
Like you said, in any sport, I mean, it's very rare that you come across somebody who's that successful that quickly.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you mostly hear, they started at age 3,
Mm-hmm.
and they finally, got to that level, and it was a great combination of coaching, I think, and the right time in her life, and she's just a natural pole vaulter, I'm thinking, so.
Yeah,
It's hard to teach that, you said, going from that book, going from beginner to book, and reading it, you can read all you want about it, but it's something that I don't think that can be taught.
Well, I think in fairness to Jen, too, Jen has worked so tremendously hard at just perfecting things. And, I would venture to say that, Jen picked the sport up late, but the amount of work and time and dedication and training that she puts in,
Years and years.
I just, you'd have trouble equaling it in any sport. Jen really trains, in my opinion, like a Division I wrestler. They just train at a different level. And,
it's their life.
Yeah, I take it a little personal when people say, oh, they're a natural, or oh this, or oh that. There's a lot of good athletes, but there are few athletes who I can say I've seen put that kind of time, work, and dedication in. She endures a tremendous amount.
Yeah.
And like I said, just in our training facility, most vaulters could not even handle that training facility, let alone, a great encouraging guy like myself. And I'm being very, very ironic when I say that, on top the whole time, directing it. It's difficult. This is not an easy training atmosphere, but she endures it, she thrives in it, and she accelerates with it.
She's
and
a great example that there's no substitute for hard work and dedication.
Right, exactly.
Great example. And going back to, we were talking about Yelena and her getting, the 10 million and kind of always having money and everything. And a lot of people don't know this, but, you actually remortgaged your home at the beginning of Jen's career to fund her, to train and everything like that. So, what made you so confident that she was gonna be as successful as she is now, or that you can actually make that money back, I should say?
Yeah. Again, Jen and I have been very blessed. Jen makes a very generous amount of money, and I can't be, happier. And like I said, we've been very lucky. It wasn't like that at first. All vaulters have stories about their struggles early. Our struggles were monumental. We did not have any resources. We never expected to get help or to get money. We had to make it the old-fashioned way. We had to earn it. And, you know, basically that came from a lot of sacrifice, giving up a lot of things. And, you know, it just takes time. As far as remortgaging my home, that is something I did do. I had 50 people tell me not to do it. I don't think I had anyone tell me or agree with me to do it. And honestly, I didn't know Jen was going to be that good. I mean, you know, Jen's won 10 out of 11 U.S. titles that she's jumped in.
Yeah.
You know, national championships. I couldn't have predicted that. And even if you're the best jumper in the meet, you're not going to win 10 out of 11. You're not going to. You might win half of them if you're the number one seed. So, you know, I honestly couldn't have predicted that Jen was going to be as successful as she has, or nearly as consistent. You know, jumping high is one thing, jumping consistent is another.
That's a huge factor in pole vault.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you make money with consistency. And, you know, it was a gamble. It's something I did, but I believed in the system. And Jen believed in the system. And I always say you can actually have an inferior system, but if it's believed in more, it's better than a better system not believed in at all. So, you know, the bottom line is I honestly didn't know she would ever do what she did. I mean, I knew Jen could be a good jumper, but not anything like she became or is now.
All right, so just one last question, wrap things up here. And, you know, I'm going to kind of repeat myself from the beginning here and list your accomplishments again. You know, you're in the last 6 years, you have to remember this has only been 6 years, but you've had 4 national champions, you know, at their respective levels come out of you. You've had 23 national records, 7 American records, 10 U.S. titles, and again, most recently, the 2 highest jumps in the world in the last 2 seasons. You know, you're obviously, you know, you're very successful at this point. You know, what's your next step? What do you want? What's your goal?
Well, you know, when you read those things, I honestly I don't even know how accurate that is. But is that even accurate?
Pretty sure that's accurate.
Well, I would say that probably the first thing I have to do is not realize or take too much into that or look into that too much, because I think you become satisfied. I think you have to constantly reinvent yourself and keep getting thirsty for different things.
That's a good way to put it.
But you know, there's a lot of emphasis on Olympics. There's a lot of emphasis on world championships. But you know, I would let it be known that my goal is world record, and it's way above anything else.
I mean, that makes sense at this point.
To me, the world record defines the event.
Yeah.
And, you know, I just think that it really is a way to say that, you know, on this day, we jumped higher than anyone has ever jumped. Now, Olympic gold, Olympic bounty is nice.
Yeah.
But world championship title, but that's one day.
That's one meet.
Right.
You know.
And world record or American record tells you best ever. So I would say Olympic is important, world championships are important, U.S. titles are important, but world record is the goal. And I would say that that's the one goal left. And, you know, to go further with that, it's a double-edged sword sometimes, because your high jumps define so much about you. And, you know, I just think that if you are jumping your PR and you can do it at a big time, at a major meet, at a visa meet, not in a street vault or in a vault only meet, I think that really defines you as somebody who can perform at big times. Street vaults are a great method of entertainment, and I enjoy them. And it could be the
a lot of people do. Yeah.
It could be the future of our event. But it's a double-edged sword, and I think that sometimes it's just a different atmosphere to jump in. And there are challenges that are brought to you at a track and field meet that are not presented at a vault off or a vault only meet. So, and it tells a lot about a vaulter and how successful they can deal with what happens in a track and field atmosphere. That's why shoe companies value so much that people jump heights at major meets, U.S. championships, world championships, visa meets, Diamond League meets.
It's almost only fair to do it that way as well.
Well, it's almost to a point where we need two different categories. We need
Yeah.
a category of street vaults or vault-only meets,
Mhm.
and then, track and field meets. I think that would be more realistic. There's a place for both.
Yes.
There's a positiveness to both. But it can come back to haunt us, and I think it already has in the U.S.,
Mhm.
as far as the credibility of marks, along with, because, we've all been to street vaults, you get a little angle on the runway, you get
Yeah.
a little deeper box, or, you're gonna get, the wind swirling behind you
Yeah.
at 20 miles an hour. And that's fun, that's great jumping. But when it comes to the shoe companies, they want credible
Mhm.
and legitimate marks, which...
Leave it open for too many questions. at
Exactly,
street vaults.
and then it starts to affect the credibility of American marks, where you're going to Europe, and it starts to affect appearance fees
Mhm.
and things like that. And that's not a good situation to be in, and that really has a lot to do with some of the problems we're having now with kids getting contracts. So the kids have to get contracts, by jumping in legitimate meets,
Yeah.
and not so much relying on, that PR that comes from that street vault. Shoe companies are very smart about that thing, and they really want to see performances in meets and track and field atmospheres. They really, and I can speak from experience on this, they really don't care too much about, what can you jump in a vault-only meet, because that's not going to make them money.
Yeah.
To make them money, you're going to have to do it on national TV and track and field atmosphere.
And that's where the agent comes into play as well, like you were
Yep.
saying, how important,
You know,
because the agent's going to be the one to tell you what meets to jump in. And
Right,
Yes.
and that's a factor, along with, the consistency and being able to strike a big mark. Again, Jen's two world-leading marks were set in U.S. championships.
Yeah.
Those are very difficult
Legitimate.
atmospheres to
Mhm.
jump in.
Mhm.
We can all find a little downhill runway tomorrow and mark a big mark.
I know what, I used to jump my PRs.
Exactly. We all
Yeah.
have a downhill run somewhere, somehow.
Yeah.
But that's one thing we've kept out with Jen, and that's why Jen has thrived as she has with,
Okay.
with shoe companies, and with that, ultimately with that money, appearance fee, and things like that. It's a factor. So if we can start maybe steering away from those and really getting into meets and scoring, I think we'll do a little better for everybody.
Good. All right. Well, I want to thank you. That's all the questions that I have today. Maybe we could sit down again and do a few other ones if anybody watching this has some other questions that they might want answered.
Sure.
But
Great.
I want to thank you for your insight
Thank
on
you.
the sport. I think you brought a lot of knowledge to a lot of people watching. So it's great information.
Okay.
And I know Jen is hanging around, wondering if maybe the possibility of me sitting down with her and having an interview sometime in the future.
Oh, hopefully, I'm sure she would. I'm sure she'd like
Yeah.
to sit down with you.
It'd be a lot of fun for me.
Okay, absolutely.
All right, we'll put it together. All right, thank you for joining us, and look forward to the next interview. Okay. How's that look? Do you want him to look? Me to look?
What's up?
What are we doing? He wants you to move your chair a little bit closer.
Closer? I can't get much closer.
Ball coach. He coaches Jen Suhr, his wife. Okay.
I feel good now. I feel much better now.
Yeah?
Yep, I'm good.